Jake Morrison stood watching the sunrise from the observation deck at New Eden Colony Center. The sky turned gold and pink as light spread across endless fields of crops that would feed thousands. He'd spent 15 years here, watching this place grow from a tiny settlement into a thriving world with 50,000 people. The morning air felt fresh and pure. Jake breathed deeply, thankful for everything he'd built here. New Eden was exactly what Earth had promised when the colony ships first launched. No fighting, no dirty air, no packed cities. Just quiet farming towns spread across a beautiful planet. Lisa Carter walked up next to him with coffee and a tablet in her hands. She ran Colony Communications, a young woman with sparkling eyes and an easy smile. "Morning, Jake. The weekly numbers are ready to send back to Earth." Jake took the tablet and nodded. Everything looked great. Harvests were up 20% from last year. Everyone stayed healthy and more babies kept arriving. 3 newborns just this week alone. Crime barely existed. The colony was everything humanity hoped for when reaching toward the stars. "Send it," Jake told her. "Earth's going to love hearing how well things are going." Lisa headed back to her station while Jake kept watching the sunrise. Far off, farmers walked toward their fields. Kids headed to school, their happy voices floating on the breeze. A perfect morning on a perfect planet. The trouble started at exactly 9:47 in the morning. Lisa's voice crackled through Jake's radio, tight with concern. "Jake, something weird's showing up on our long-range scanners. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace." Jake's brow furrowed. No arrivals were scheduled today. The next supply run from Earth wasn't coming for another 3 weeks. How many ships? 12? Wait, 15 now. "They're huge, Jake. Way bigger than our cargo haulers." A cold feeling crept down Jake's back. He'd never seen military vessels himself, but older colonists had told him stories about Earth's wars. "Are they answering our calls?" No response. "They won't answer anything we send. And Jake, they're not broadcasting any identification. We don't recognize them at all." Jake started running toward the communication center. Other colonists stopped working, staring up at the sky with confused faces. The ships were visible now, dark shapes cutting across the bright morning. They moved with strange grace, nothing like the clunky cargo ships that usually visited New Eden. "Attention all colony channels. This is Administrator Morrison." Jake broadcast as he reached the communication building. "Unknown ships approaching our position. This is real. All civilians need to get to the nearest shelter right away." The 15 ships spread out across the sky above New Eden's main town. They looked sleek and dark without any visible marks or symbols. They just hovered there quietly like hunters studying their next meal. Lisa worked frantically at her controls, trying to reach the mysterious vessels. Still nothing. "Jake, they're just floating there watching us." "Try Earth," Jake commanded. "Get me connected to Colonial Command right now." "I'm attempting that, but something's blocking us. The signal keeps breaking up." Jake stared out the window at those alien ships. A horrible understanding started forming in his mind. These weren't explorers or traders. The way they positioned themselves, ignoring every attempt to talk, moving with cold efficiency. These were war vessels. "Emergency message to all settlements," Jake said, keeping his voice calm despite growing fear in his chest. "All colonists must evacuate to underground shelters immediately. This is real, I repeat. This is actually happening." The alien ships began moving. Weapons appeared along their sides, glowing with threatening blue light. Jake had never seen weapons like this before, but he knew what they meant. Death was coming to New Eden. "Lisa, send that Earth message now. Tell them we're being attacked." Lisa's hands flew across her keyboard. "I'm trying, Jake. The interference keeps getting stronger. I think they're deliberately blocking our signals." The first blast came without any warning. A blue energy beam struck the colony's main power station and the whole building just disappeared. Where it stood moments ago, there was only a smoking crater of melted glass. Screams rang out across the settlement as people ran for safety. Jake grabbed Lisa's shoulder, the backup communication system. "Can you reach it? It's in the mining facility about 2 kilometers underground. If we get there, I might break through their jamming." More energy beams cut down from above. Buildings burst into flames. The carefully grown fields that Jake had watched develop for 15 years were turning into burning wasteland. The alien ships were systematically destroying everything they'd built. Jake and Lisa ran through chaos toward the mine entrance. Around them, colonists were dying. Families who'd lived peacefully for decades were being cut down by weapons they couldn't understand or fight. Kids who'd been walking to school minutes ago now ran for their lives. They reached the mining entrance just as another wave of energy struck the surface. The ground shook hard and rocks fell from the tunnel ceiling. They stumbled through darkness, guided only by weak emergency lights that flickered. "Here!" Lisa gasped, reaching the backup system. Her hands trembled as she powered everything up. "I've got a signal. It's weak, but it's getting through. Earth Control, this is New Eden Colony," Lisa transmitted. "Unknown alien forces are attacking us. Repeat, we're under attack. Bombardment from orbit happening now. Don't know how many casualties. Need immediate help." The answer crackled through static. "New Eden, this is Earth Control." "Confirm what you just said. Did you say attack?" "Confirmed Earth Control. 15 alien warships. They're destroying everything. The colony's gone. We're broadcasting from underground. Don't know how long we'll last." Jake took the microphone. "Earth Control, this is Administrator Morrison. The attack was unprovoked. They ignored all communication attempts. They just started firing. We need help desperately." The ground shook again as more beams hit the surface above. Dust and rocks rained down from the ceiling. The lights flickered and died, leaving total darkness. "Earth Control, we're losing power," Lisa sent out. "If you hear this, tell everyone what happened here. Tell them we were just farmers. We never hurt anybody. We just wanted to live peacefully." The communication system sparked and went dead. The silence that followed was broken only by distant rumbling far above. Jake and Lisa sat in darkness, listening to their world die. Above them, the alien ships continued their careful destruction. When they finished, New Eden would be nothing but scorched wasteland. The 50,000 people who called it home would be gone. Their dreams of peaceful life among the stars turned to ash and memory. The aliens had made their point. Humanity was weak and spread out across the galaxy in helpless colonies. They could be wiped out before becoming a threat. It was simple math, a practical choice. They had no idea they'd just made the worst mistake in galactic history. The news arrived at Earth 12 hours after the attacks started. President Helen Martinez sat in the emergency briefing room with her closest advisors around her. Reports were flooding in from all across human territory. 12 colonies hit at the same time. The death count was climbing toward 700,000 people. "How is this even possible?" demanded General Paul Wright, head of Earth's military. "We have watching stations throughout the sector. How did 15 alien warships get past our defenses without being spotted?" Admiral Carol Stone, intelligence chief, spoke softly. "They didn't just get past our defenses, General. They avoided them completely. These attacks were planned with perfect knowledge of our patrol routes and sensor coverage. Someone's been watching us for a very long time." President Martinez stared at the reports covering the table. Each told the same story. Peaceful farming colonies, research stations, and mining outposts destroyed without warning. Families living quiet lives among the stars were simply gone. "What do we know about the attackers?" she asked. "Very little," Admiral Stone answered. The few survivors described sleek, dark ships with advanced energy weapons. No attempt at communication, no demands or warnings. They just started shooting and then left. "Correct, Madam President. After destroying each colony, they simply jumped back into hyperspace. Our tracking stations lost them instantly." The room went silent. Everyone understood the meaning. Humanity had been tested and found lacking. The attackers had struck without fear of payback because they believed humans were weak. President Martinez stood slowly. "Admiral Stone, I need you to authorize Protocol 7. Color drained from Admiral Stone's face. "Madam President, are you certain? Once we take that step, there's no turning back. 700,000 people are dead, Admiral. They died because someone decided humanity was an easy target. I think it's time we show them how wrong they are." General Wright looked puzzled. "What is Protocol 7? I've never heard of any such thing." President Martinez and Admiral Stone exchanged glances. "General, there are things about our military power that even you don't know. Things kept secret for over a century. I don't understand." "You will," President Martinez said. "Admiral Stone, you have my authorization. Wake the giants." 3 hours later, Dr. Alex Rivera drove through Colorado mountains toward a facility that didn't exist on any map. His security clearance was higher than almost anyone's except the president herself. But even he'd never been to Vault 7 before today. The entrance looked like nothing more than an old highway maintenance shed. Dr. Rivera pressed his hand against a hidden scanner and the ground opened, revealing an elevator shaft going deep into the mountain. The elevator ride lasted 5 minutes. When doors opened, Dr. Rivera stepped into a medical facility that looked straight out of science fiction. In the room's center sat a frozen chamber, its surface covered with ice. Warning lights blinked slowly around its base. Dr. Rivera, a nervous technician, approached him. "We received the wake-up authorization 20 minutes ago. The subject is already beginning revival." Dr. Rivera nodded and walked toward the chamber. Inside, he could see a woman's face through frosted glass. She looked to be in her 40s with graying hair and strong features. According to her file, she'd been asleep for 180 years. Admiral Susan Blake, Dr. Rivera read from his tablet, architect of the Terran Defense Initiative, entered frozen sleep in 2045 after completing Project Sleeping Giant. The chamber hissed open. Admiral Blake's eyes opened slowly, and she took her first breath of 21st century air. Dr. Rivera helped her sit up, offering a warm blanket. "What year is it?" she asked, her voice rough from long sleep. 2225, Admiral. You've been under for 180 years. Blake nodded slowly. Then it worked. The colonies are established. Yes, Admiral. We have settlements on over 40 worlds. But there's been an incident. Blake's eyes sharpened. What kind of incident? Dr. Rivera handed her a tablet with the attack reports. Blake read through them quickly, her expression growing darker with each page. "Unprovoked attacks on civilian populations," she said finally. 12 colonies destroyed simultaneously. No communication attempts. She looked up at Dr. Rivera. "They think we're weak. Yes, Admiral. The President has authorized Protocol 7. Blake stood up, testing her balance. "How long since the attacks?" 15 hours. "Then we still have time. Doctor, I need to speak with the President immediately. I need access to the Titan Network." "The Titan Network?" Blake smiled grimly. "Doctor, for the past 180 years, humanity has been building the most powerful military force in galactic history. We just never told anyone about it. Across the galaxy, Captain Ryan Foster was having the strangest day of his career. His ship, the exploration vessel Meridian, had been doing a routine survey of the Kepler system when emergency orders arrived. Within minutes, his peaceful science mission had turned into something completely different. "Captain," called his first officer, Lieutenant Dan Murphy, "the modifications are complete. All scientific equipment has been removed and stored." Ryan looked around his ship's bridge. It didn't look like the same vessel he'd commanded for 3 years. Hidden panels had opened throughout the ship, revealing military-grade computers, weapon systems, and communication arrays he'd never seen before. "Sir," his weapons officer, Lieutenant Kate Phillips, reported from her new station. "All defensive systems are online. We're showing full combat capability." "I still don't understand how this is possible," Ryan said. "Yesterday we were a science ship. Today we're apparently a warship." His communication officer, Ensign Tony Garcia, looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Titan Command. It's Admiral Blake." Ryan had never heard of Admiral Blake or Titan Command. "Put it through." The view screen flickered to life, showing an older woman in a military uniform he didn't recognize. "Captain Foster, this is Admiral Blake. You are now under operational command of the Terran Defense Force." "Admiral, I don't understand. What is the Terran Defense Force?" "Captain, for the past century, every exploration ship, every cargo vessel, every civilian transport has been built with hidden military capabilities. You and your crew have been part of the galaxy's most powerful fleet without even knowing it." Ryan felt dizzy. "That's impossible." "Captain, look at your ship. Look at your new weapon systems. Look at your crew's new duty stations. Does it seem impossible?" No. Ryan had to admit it didn't. The transformation of his ship had been too smooth, too perfect. It was as if the Meridian had been designed from the start to be a warship disguised as a science vessel. "Admiral, why are you telling me this now?" Blake's expression hardened. "Because 12 of our colonies have been destroyed by an alien force. 700,000 civilians are dead, and it's time for humanity to stop pretending to be weak." The transmission ended, and Ryan stared at the blank screen. Around him, his crew was adjusting to their new reality. The peaceful mission from yesterday was forgotten. They were no longer explorers. They were soldiers in a war they hadn't even known was coming. "Captain," Lieutenant Murphy said quietly, "what are your orders?" Ryan looked at the tactical display showing positions of other ships throughout the sector. According to the readings, Hundreds of vessels just like his were all revealing their true nature for the first time. "Set course for the rally point," Ryan said. "Looks like humanity is finally ready to show the galaxy what we're truly capable of." In the depths of space, automated systems that had slept for decades began waking up. Hidden shipyards started their production lines. Weapons platforms powered up their targeting systems. The sleeping giants of human military might were stirring, and soon the galaxy would learn what happened when you attacked the seemingly peaceful farmers of Earth. Admiral Blake stood in Titan Station's command center, watching humanity's true military might come online across the galaxy. The station itself was hidden deep inside an asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. For over a century, it had looked like nothing more than a mining operation. Now its real purpose was revealed. "Admiral," reported Commander Kate Phillips, "the Titan Forge is coming online, all automated systems responding normally." Blake nodded, watching massive displays that showed activity throughout human space. Red dots appeared everywhere, marking locations of military installations hidden for decades. "How many ships do we have ready?" "The first wave consists of 200 vessels, Admiral. The second wave will be ready in 6 hours. By week's end, we'll have over 1,000 ships in active service." Blake smiled grimly. The aliens who attacked the colonies thought they were dealing with a weak, scattered civilization. They had no idea that humanity's entire expansion into space had been one massive military operation disguised as peaceful exploration. "What about the defense platforms?" "Coming online now, Admiral. We have coverage over every major shipping lane and all approaches to Earth. Nothing larger than a shuttle can move through human space without our permission." The Titan Forge was Blake's masterpiece, a construction facility the size of a small moon that had been building ships in secret for decades. The vessels it produced were unlike anything in the known galaxy. They were fast, heavily armed, and controlled by artificial intelligence systems that could think and react faster than any biological crew. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Ben Carter from the intelligence station. "We're receiving reports from our deep space monitoring stations. The aliens are moving. They appear to be heading back toward our colonies." Blake's expression darkened. "They're coming back to finish the job. They want to make sure there are no survivors. What are your orders, Admiral?" "Send the first wave to intercept them. It's time to introduce our alien friends to the real human military." Across the galaxy, Captain Ryan Foster was learning just how much his life had changed. The Meridian now flew in formation with 50 other ships that had once been disguised as cargo vessels, passenger transports, and research stations. All of them had revealed their true nature as advanced warships. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Dan Murphy, "we're receiving new intelligence from Titan Command. The aliens are designated as the Zephyrian Collective. They're a militaristic species that expands by destroying potential rivals before they can become threats." Ryan studied the tactical information appearing on his screen. The Zephyrians had been watching humanity for years, mapping their colonies and studying their defenses. They'd planned these attacks carefully, believing they were eliminating a weak species before it could spread further. "They made one mistake," Ryan said quietly. "They assumed we were actually weak." "Sir," Lieutenant Kate Phillips called from the weapons station, "long-range sensors are detecting Zephyrian ships in the Proxima system. They're attacking the survivors at the mining stations." Ryan felt anger surge through him. The Proxima system had been hit in the first wave of attacks, but hundreds of colonists had survived in underground shelters. Now the aliens were coming back to kill them. "All ships, this is Captain Foster. We have civilians under attack in the Proxima system. We're moving to intercept." The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, their destination the mining world, where Jake Morrison and Lisa Carter were still hiding with other survivors. The Zephyrians were about to learn what happened when you threatened human civilians. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Vex Couric watched as his ships prepared to finish their work. The initial attacks had been successful beyond his expectations. The human colonies had been destroyed with minimal resistance, proving the species was as weak as intelligence reports suggested. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting some unusual energy signatures in the system. There appear to be ships approaching." Couric studied the display with interest. "Human reinforcements? How many?" "Unknown, Admiral. The signatures are unlike anything in our databases. They're much more powerful than the cargo ships we've encountered before. Probably civilian vessels attempting a rescue mission. Destroy them. But as the human ships emerged from hyperspace, Korik realized something was very wrong. These weren't civilian vessels. They were warships, and they were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. They moved with precise coordination, their weapon systems charging with energy levels that made his own ships look primitive. "Admiral," his tactical officer said, voice shaking. "Those aren't civilian ships. They're military vessels. Heavily armed military vessels." Korik stared at the display in growing horror. The humans had over 50 ships, all larger and more advanced than his own. Where had they come from? Their intelligence. Networks had been watching human space for decades. There'd been no sign of a military fleet this powerful. "Open a communication channel," Korik ordered. "Perhaps we can negotiate." But the humans weren't interested in talking. The first wave of their attack hit Korik's fleet before he could send a message. Energy beams more powerful than anything the Zephyrians possessed tore through his ship's shields like they were made of paper. Captain Foster watched from the Meridian's bridge as the human fleet engaged the Zephyrians. The alien ships were fast and well armed, but they were no match for weapons designed in secret for over a century. "Target their command ship," Ryan ordered. "I want to send a message." The Meridian's main guns fired, and the Zephyrian flagship exploded in a ball of fire. The remaining alien ships tried to flee, but the human vessels were faster. Within minutes, the entire Zephyrian fleet was destroyed. "Sir," Lieutenant Murphy reported, "we're receiving a transmission from a mining complex. It's Lisa Carter." The view screen showed a young woman covered in dust and debris, but very much alive. "This is New Eden Colony emergency broadcast. We have survivors in the underground shelters. We saw the battle up there." "Were those human ships?" Ryan smiled. "Miss Carter, this is Captain Foster of the Terran Defense Force. You're safe now. We're sending rescue teams to evacuate all survivors." As the rescue operation began, Ryan thought about what had just happened. The Zephyrians had attacked human colonies, believing they were weak and defenseless. They'd been wrong. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for over a century, building weapons and ships in secret while maintaining the appearance of peaceful expansion. "Captain," Lieutenant Phillips said, "we're receiving reports from across human space. Similar engagements are taking place in 12 other systems. The aliens are being defeated everywhere." Ryan nodded. The sleeping giants were fully awake now, and they were hungry for justice. The Zephyrians had made the mistake of attacking human civilians. Now they would learn the price of that decision. In the depths of space, more automated systems continued coming online. Factory ships began producing new weapons. Defense platforms established protective grids around every human world. The peaceful age of human expansion was over, replaced by something far more dangerous. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their numbers. It was their ability to appear weak while preparing for war, and that preparation was about to pay off in ways the Zephyrians could never have imagined. Admiral Blake stood before the holographic star map in Titan Station's command center, planning humanity's response to the colony attacks. The red dots, marking destroyed human settlements, glowed like wounds across the display. But now blue dots were appearing everywhere as humanity's hidden fleet moved into position. "Admiral," Commander Kate Phillips reported, "our deep space reconnaissance has located the Zephyrian home system. It's called Cathra Prime, located 72 light-years from Earth." Blake studied the tactical data. The Zephyrian homeworld was heavily defended, surrounded by orbital platforms and patrol fleets. They'd built their entire civilization around the idea that offense was the best defense. They conquered other species before those species could threaten them. "What about their border systems?" "We've identified 17 military outposts along their frontier. The closest is a system called Keller Minor, about 30 light-years from the attack sites." Blake nodded slowly. The Zephyrians had made their statement by destroying human colonies. Now it was time for humanity to make their own statement. But this one would be different. This one would be impossible to ignore. "Prepare the Omega Protocol," Blake ordered. Commander Phillips hesitated. "Admiral, are you sure? We've never tested the Omega weapons in actual combat. The Zephyrians wanted to show us what happens when you attack the weak," Blake said quietly. "Now we're going to show them what happens when you attack the strong." Captain Nick Torres commanded the heavy cruiser Vengeance, one of the most advanced ships in humanity's secret fleet. His vessel was 3 times larger than any Zephyrian warship, powered by fusion reactors that had been perfected in hidden laboratories over decades of research. Captain, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Walsh, reported, "We're approaching the Keller Minor system. Long-range sensors show a standard Zephyrian military outpost, approximately 5,000 personnel on the space station with a small patrol fleet." Nick studied the display. Keller Minor was a typical border system used by the Zephyrians to watch for threats from neighboring species. It was the kind of system they'd used as a staging area for their attacks on human colonies. "Any civilian populations?" "Negative, Captain. It's a pure military installation." Nick felt grim satisfaction. The Zephyrians had shown no mercy to human civilians. Now they would learn what it felt like to be on the receiving end of overwhelming force. "All ships, this is Captain Torres. We are authorized to demonstrate the Omega Protocol, target the star." His crew looked at him in shock. Lieutenant Walsh spoke carefully. "Sir, did you say target the star?" "You heard correctly, Lieutenant. We're going to show the Zephyrians what human technology can really do." The Vengeance moved into position along with 12 other ships. Together they formed a precise formation around the system's star. The Omega weapons were humanity's most closely guarded secret, devices that could manipulate the fundamental forces of physics in ways that seemed almost magical. "Omega weapons charging," reported the weapons officer. "All ships report ready." Nick took a deep breath. What they were about to do would change everything. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Fire. The Omega weapons activated simultaneously, sending streams of exotic energy into the star's core. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The star began collapsing in on itself, its nuclear fires extinguished in seconds. Then it simply vanished, taking the entire system with it. Planets, asteroids, the Zephyrian military base. Everything that had existed in the Keller Minor system was gone. Where a star had burned for billions of years, there was now only empty space. On Zephyrian Prime, Senator Myra Velick was in the middle of a military briefing when the news arrived. The reports from the border systems had been encouraging. The attacks on human colonies had been successful, and there were no signs of organized resistance. "Senator," her aide whispered urgently, "we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Kellar sector." Myra frowned. "What kind of emergency?" "The Keller Minor system, Senator. It's gone." "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "I mean it no longer exists. The star, the planets, the military outpost. All of it has simply vanished." Myra felt her blood turn to ice. That's impossible. Stars don't just vanish. But the sensor data was clear. Where the Kellar Minor system had existed for billions of years, there was now only empty space. No debris, no trace of what had been there. It was as if the entire system had been erased from existence. "Get me Admiral Blake," Myra demanded. "I need to know what kind of weapons could do this." "Senator, Admiral Blake is dead. His entire fleet was destroyed in the Proxima system by human warships." Myra sank into her chair. Human warships? That was impossible. The intelligence reports had been clear. Humanity was a weak species, scattered across dozens of lightly defended colonies. They had no significant military forces. "Senator," her aide continued, "we're receiving reports from across our territory. Human fleets are appearing everywhere. They're not like the cargo ships we've seen before. These are warships, and they're more advanced than anything in our databases. Lieutenant Colonel Sam, Rodriguez led the first human ground forces to land on a Zephyrian world. His target was a supply depot on the planet Zephus 4, a world that had been used to stage the attacks on human colonies. His soldiers wore powered armor that made them nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. Each suit was a masterpiece of engineering, equipped with energy shields, advanced sensors, and weapons that could level buildings. Like everything else in humanity's military, the armor had been developed in secret over decades. "Colonel," reported Sergeant Lisa Martinez, "we've secured the landing zone. The Zephyrian garrison is falling back to defensive positions." Sam looked across the alien landscape. Zephus 4 was a harsh world of red rocks and thin atmosphere. The Zephyrians had built their base in a deep valley surrounded by natural barriers that should have made it easy to defend. "Deploy the siege breakers," Sam ordered. The siege breakers were floating weapons platforms that could punch through any defensive wall. They moved ahead of the human forces, their energy cannons, tearing through Zephyrian fortifications like paper. "Colonel," his communication officer reported, "we're receiving surrender signals from the Zephyrian commander." Sam was surprised. The Zephyrians were known for fighting to the death. They never surrendered. "Put him through." The alien commander appeared on Sam's display, his reptilian features twisted with fear. "Human commander, we surrender. We had no knowledge of your true military capabilities. We thought you were a weak species." Sam looked at the alien coldly. "You thought wrong. You attacked our colonies. You killed our civilians. You started this war. We made a mistake," the Zephyrian pleaded. "We will withdraw from all human territory. We will pay reparations." "That's not your decision to make," Sam said. "You'll surrender unconditionally and await judgment." As the Zephyrian forces laid down their weapons, Sam received reports from across the galaxy. Similar operations were taking place on dozens of worlds. The human military was demonstrating a level of coordination and capability that shocked everyone who witnessed it. The peaceful farmers and miners who'd been attacked were revealing themselves as something else entirely. They were soldiers in a war that had been planned for over a century, and they were winning. Back on Earth, President Martinez watched the reports coming in from across human space. The Zephyrian collective was in full retreat, their fleets scattered, and their worlds defenseless. A species that had thought they were eliminating a weak rival had instead awakened the galaxy's most powerful military force. "Madam President," Admiral Stone reported, "we're receiving communication attempts from the Zephyrian government. They're requesting negotiations." Martinez nodded. The demonstration was working. The Zephyrians were learning that humanity was not the weak species they'd thought. "Tell them we'll consider their request," she said. "But first they need to understand exactly what they're dealing with." The sleeping giants were fully awake now, and they were showing the galaxy what happened when you attacked the wrong species. The Zephyrians had wanted to eliminate humanity before it could become a threat. Instead, they'd given humanity a reason to stop hiding its true strength. The war ended not with a final battle, but with a demonstration that shattered the Zephyrian will to fight. Admiral Blake stood on the bridge of the human flagship Titan as it entered the Zephyrian home system. Behind her sailed a fleet of 500 ships, each one more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Zephyrian Prime hung before them like a blue and green jewel, surrounded by massive orbital defense platforms that had protected the planet for thousands of years. Those same platforms now hung silent and powerless, their crews having abandoned them rather than face the human fleet. Admiral Commander Kate Phillips reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the planetary government. They're requesting permission to speak." Blake nodded. The Zephyrians had been trying to surrender for 3 days, ever since human forces appeared in their home system. But Blake wanted them to understand exactly what they'd awakened before she accepted their surrender. "Put them through." The view screen showed a group of Zephyrian leaders, their reptilian features marked by fear and desperation. The one in the center, wearing elaborate robes, spoke in broken human language. "Great human commander, we beg for mercy. We did not know. We thought you were weak like the others. We were wrong. Please do not destroy our world." Blake studied the alien leader coldly. "You attacked 12 of our colonies without warning. You killed 700,000 civilians. You gave them no mercy. Why should we give you any?" "Because we surrender completely," the Zephyrian leader said, his voice shaking. We will leave this sector of space. We will abandon all our territories. Our entire species will exile itself to the galaxy's edge. Just please do not use the Star-Killer weapons on our home." Blake was quiet for a long moment. The Star-Killer weapons had become legend across the galaxy in just 1 week. News of what happened to the Keller minor system had spread to every civilized species. Humanity had demonstrated the power to erase entire star systems from existence. "Your surrender is accepted," Blake said finally. "But there will be conditions." President Martinez sat in her office on Earth reading the surrender terms that Admiral Blake had negotiated with the Zephyrian Collective. The terms were harsh but fair. The Zephyrians would withdraw from all territory within 100 light-years of human space. They would pay reparations to the families of those killed in the colony attacks. Most importantly, they would serve as a warning to other species about what happened when you attacked humanity. "Madame President," Admiral Stone said, entering the office, "the final casualty reports are in. We lost 8 ships during the entire campaign. The Zephyrians lost over 600 vessels and had to abandon 17 star systems." Martinez nodded sadly. 8 ships meant about 400 human lives lost. It was a small price compared to the 700,000 colonists who died, but each loss was still felt deeply. "What about the other species? How are they reacting to our victory?" "Fear mostly," Admiral Stone replied. "The Galactic Council has requested an emergency meeting. They want to discuss humanity's new status in galactic politics." Martinez understood their concern. For over a century, humanity had been seen as a peaceful species focused on exploration and trade. Now they'd revealed themselves as the galaxy's most powerful military force. Every other species was wondering if they might be next. "Schedule a meeting," Martinez said. "It's time the galaxy understood our true position." Captain Ryan Foster stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt New Eden colony, watching children play in parks that had been constructed over the ruins of the old settlement. The planet had been restored to its former beauty, but it was no longer the innocent farming world it had been before the attacks. Orbital defense platforms hung in the sky above, their weapons trained on the approaches to the system. Every ship that entered human space was now tracked and monitored by sensors that could detect a single fighter craft from light years away. The age of undefended human colonies was over forever. "Captain," Lisa Carter said, approaching him with a cup of coffee. She'd survived the original attack and now served as the colony's defense coordinator. "The memorial service is about to begin." Ryan followed her to the central square where a monument had been erected to honor the colonists who died in the Zephyrian attacks. The names of all 700,000 victims were carved into black stone, a reminder of the price of appearing weak in a dangerous galaxy. Jake Morrison's name was near the top of the list. The colony administrator had died trying to evacuate civilians, never knowing help was coming. Ryan wondered what Jake would have thought about humanity's hidden military strength. Would he have approved of the deception? Or would he have preferred that humanity remained the peaceful species it had pretended to be? Dr. Alex Rivera walked through the halls of Titan Station, observing the changes that had taken place since Admiral Blake's awakening. The facility was no longer hidden. It had become the headquarters of the Terran Defense Force, openly coordinating the protection of human space. The automated factories were running at full capacity, producing new ships and weapons at a rate that amazed even their designers. The sleeping giants of human industry had awakened along with the military, and they were hungry for work. "Dr. Rivera," Admiral Blake called from her office, "I wanted to thank you for waking me up. Though I have to admit this isn't the galaxy I expected to find." Dr. Rivera joined her at the window overlooking the shipyards. Hundreds of vessels were under construction, their hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. "The galaxy has changed, Admiral. We've changed it," Blake nodded. "The question is whether we've changed it for the better. We're no longer the peaceful explorers we once were. Every species in the galaxy now sees us as a potential threat. But they also see us as protectors," Dr. Rivera pointed out. 3 smaller species have already requested to join the human alliance. They want our protection against other aggressive races. Blake sighed. "Protection comes with a price. We're no longer just responsible for human lives. We're becoming the galaxy's peacekeepers, whether we want to be or not." Admiral Blake made her final decision 3 months after the war ended. The sleeping giants had served their purpose, demonstrating humanity's true strength and securing peace for human space. But keeping them active would require constant vigilance and an enormous military budget. "Begin the shutdown procedures," she ordered Commander Phillips. "Return all non-essential military units to standby status. Admiral, are you sure? We've just proven how effective these systems can be." Blake looked out at the stars, thinking about the colonies that now flourished under the protection of human weapons. "Kate, the greatest strength we have isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to choose when to use them." The process took weeks. Ships were mothballed and returned to their civilian disguises. Weapons platforms went into standby mode. The massive fleets that had terrified the galaxy began to disappear, returning to the shadows where they'd waited for over a century. But everyone knew they were still there. The galaxy had seen what humanity could do when threatened. The sleeping giants might slumber again, but they would never be forgotten. Admiral Blake returned to her frozen chamber, ready to sleep until humanity needed her again. As the frost began to form on the pod's surface, she thought about the price they'd paid for security. They'd gained safety for human space, but they'd lost their innocence. The galaxy would never again see humanity as a peaceful species. They were now the sleeping giants, feared and respected throughout the stars. And perhaps, Blake thought as sleep took her, that was exactly what they needed to be. In the rebuilt colony of New Eden, children played under skies protected by weapons that could destroy stars. They would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was known not for its weakness, but for its terrible strength. The sleeping giants had awakened, shown their power, and returned to their slumber. But the galaxy would always remember what happened when you made the mistake of attacking the wrong species.